Hello, thanks for joining. We'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Sehjung Hah, and also we have our technical marketing team here as well. We have Dave Overbeek, we have Kelcey Lemon, we have Kyle Gleed, also we have Abhijit Timble, and we have a host of other team members here as well too. And wanted to thank you for joining this session. This is the smarter way to operate a private cloud. So I know you heard Paul and some of our other leaders talk earlier today about some of the overarching principles of VCF 9.0. And here we're going to talk about what we can do in terms of operations and also a lot of the innovations and improvements that have occurred in this latest release. So the previous release was 5.2, and there were some integrations happening and improvements already in 5.2, but now in 9.0, we've taken a lot of the different aspects of VMware Cloud Foundation and put them into operations. So you don't have this swivel chair concept where you have to go into different consoles to see what's going on. So for example, in 9.0, now we fully integrated the logs capability, as well as now we've integrated networks, as well as Skyline, which was our diagnostics tool, plus several other things like Lifecycle Manager. So a lot of these things are now going to be done within the operations screen, and it's going to make your lives a lot easier in terms of managing your VCF infrastructure. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So the way we look at it is, traditionally when we looked at ARIA operations, we looked at what was in the middle, operations management. So a lot of those things you've already done, but then we've integrated a lot of those capabilities from different consoles into one view, which is VCF operations. And then now with 9.0, we're introducing fleet management, which is on the left. And a lot of those capabilities have come from SDDC Manager, but now it's improved the experience as well as the screens all in operations now. And then on the right side, a lot of the capabilities that are new in terms of looking at the network, the net flow data, event auditing, as well as compliance checks that we get from different tools in the past, like the ARIA operations for networks or even Skyline, are now part of security management. So, and the nice thing about this is we're doing this all across your compute, your storage, as well as your network. So you get one view and you're not troubleshooting or trying to improve performance with multiple different tools. It's all in operations. So we'll go into some of the new things that are there. So in terms of fleet management, one thing that you want to do is when you're building this infrastructure, you want to build this infrastructure and repeat this. So if you have this, compute network, as well as storage, you want to make sure you repeat that somewhere else, and you don't want to have snowflakes. So in terms of consistency and scale, you want to be able to easily do that. And then also in terms of licensing. So one key thing in VCF 9.0 licensing, we have a license file rather than having separate license keys that have to go into every component. Now it's just one license file, which is with the Broadcom support portal, as well as VCF operations, which makes it a lot easier as you deploy. And then also in terms of lifestyle cycle, in terms of upgrading, that's built in now. And then also your single sign-on. So the single sign-on is no longer VIPM. It's improved in VCF 9.0. And all the other aspects as you're managing your fleet, certificates, passwords, and also your configurations, knowing when your configurations are different from, let's say, a golden configuration, having that visibility with our drift detection. So those are some key things that are new in 9.0 versus what we had in 5.2. And then in terms of operations management, so we've fully integrated Skyline, which is our diagnostics and troubleshooting tool. So we also have log assist. So that way, as you open a support ticket, you can actually send information ahead of time to the support teams. So that's gathered and saves you time, as well as integrating the network and logs as we talked about. And then also there's a new storage dashboard. So you can see a lot of your statistics in terms of storage on your infrastructure, especially with vSAN. And then also, if you need to do workload migration planning, that's part of the HCX interface. And that's a key aspect of operations management as well. So in terms of security management, some key things we've done is being able to see what is vulnerable in terms of software, which might require a software upgrade, for example, and also in terms of all, seeing who's making changes on the infrastructure, who's maybe adding themselves as root, things like that. You'll have that type of visibility across the infrastructure. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get started with some demonstrations, and I'll go ahead and pass it over to Kyle Gleed, who will cover fleet management.
All right, thank you. So sharing my screen here. And if everybody can just confirm, you're seeing my fleet management screen.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, so we're talking about fleet management. And so one of the things when we get started with Cloud Foundation, you'll notice is that VCF operations is now a required component, where in the past it was always seen as something that was nice to have, but you didn't need it in your environment. Well, now with VCF 9, this is a required component. As Sehjung mentioned, it is required for licensing, but it also, in addition to having all the capabilities that we've known and loved over the years, as far as health and diagnostics, integration with views into storage and networking, observability, troubleshooting. With VCF 9, we have added this new section, and we are calling this the fleet management. And you'll notice if you're familiar with VCF versions in the past, a lot of these things are not necessarily new to Cloud Foundation. They've existed in the SDC Manager, but what is new here is that we are migrating some of these capabilities away from the SDC Manager UI into operations, and thus helping to consolidate the number of tools we have into a smaller number of UIs. So you'll see that. And I'm going to take a few minutes and go through this demo. Now, this demo is similar to the demo that we see in Paul's keynote, but where they went through it at lightning fast speed, I'm going to take a little bit of time and just kind of step through it a little bit more at a learning pace. So here we're logged into VCF operations. And you can see here that I do have my VCF operations view, my inventory on the left, and you'll see here's this fleet management section. In addition, I have the boxes here, so I can view it this way as well. And I'm going to talk about several of these new capabilities. One of the first that I want to talk about is identity and access. So in the keynote, there were a lot of questions about enhanced link mode and single pane of glass. And hey, when you go to VCF 9, we need to break that enhanced link mode ring, and we need to take the vCenter out so we can import those. But can I still get a single pane of glass? And the answer is yes, you can. And you do that by first going in and setting up identity and access management. And essentially what this is this, we also call it VCF SSO, not to be confused with vCenter SSO. But essentially, we have a single identity broker, a single method for doing identity management across the stack. So here you'll see I have it configured, and if I go in and look at the registered component, well, we'll go in a minute and see the registered components. But it's very easy to set up. When I set it up, I just simply go in and I set up my identity source. And here I can do OIDC, SAML, or I can do those protocols, or I can do Active Directory or Open LDAP. And I basically go in and set it up. And once it's set up, I then go in and I register the components. So here you'll see that my identity source is set up, and here I have my vCenter servers and my NSX instances all registered with this identity management. And you'll notice here in this blue box, once you set it up, there isn't an extra step, because you need to go into each component and assign the necessary roles, services, and provision user and group. So you do need to go in after you've set up the VCF SSO, you need to go into the different components and set up the role-based access control. But once that's done, then you'll be able to go in and you'll have a single method for sign on, and I'm going to show that a little bit later as we go through the demo. If we go in here, I'll just show, here we've got these components registered. What would it be? What would be involved with go ahead and registering automation? Like come here to automation, I click single sign on. You see it's very simple. I just provide the identity broker and I click configure, and it's there. And then I go into automation and set up the role-based access controls. There is an embedded identity broker as well as an external identity broker. So depending on your environment and your scale, you can go with the embedded, which is a smaller footprint. If you want to go with the external, then it's 3 appliances will get deployed. So that is the identity and access centralized SSO. And again, bringing identity and authentication all under a single identity broker within VCF across the full stack, so across all the components. The next thing I'm going to talk about is passwords. So passwords, this is, again, not anything necessarily new, but where you used to have to access this and view this centralized password management from the SDDC manager, we've now moved this into VCF operations, and here you'll see what it looks like here. It's pretty straightforward. You'll see here we have things broke up by the VCF management, where I see my automation, my fleet manager, my operations. In the VCF instances, where I would see my vCenter, I would see my NSX, I would see my SDDC manager. And so you basically have centralized management, and if I want to go in and update a password, I simply select it. So here I'm on my operations, I choose my admin password. I can do update password, and I can update the password. And it will basically go out, and you'll see it will run a workflow, and it will update the password. Now you'll see here there are 2 options. You can update passwords and you can remediate passwords. So what's the difference here? Well, if you update passwords, you're going to change the password and set a password to whatever you decide. If you remediate password, this is where, say I was to SSH into an appliance and change the admin password or change the root password, and now the password that's on that actual appliance does not match what is in VCF. And so I need to remediate that. So I come here and I basically tell the VCF, this is the password. I changed it outside. This is the password I want you to use, and it will remediate that and update that. So that is the passwords. Again, pretty straightforward. In addition to passwords, we also have certificates, and certificate management is something that is very important. You have a lot of certificates, and a lot of customers have requirements to be able to go in and to use signed certificates as opposed to the self-signed certificates. And you'll notice here that along with all the certificates, we also have the ability to manage certificates for ESXi hosts. So if I click on my host here, you'll see here's all my ESXi hosts. You'll see they're all self-signed with the VMCA, and they all have a date of April in April here. And so here's this top one's April 23rd. And so I can now go in and use VCF operations to basically manage the certificates. If I want to go in and start by configuring a certificate authority, I can configure a Microsoft certificate authority or an OpenSSL. I'll go ahead and set that up. And once that's set up, I can now go in, so for example, on the ESXi host, I can go in and I can generate a certificate signing request. And I can either download that, send it off, have somebody else sign it, or I can use my configured CA and go ahead and sign it, and then just replace the certificate, and you'll see it will basically go in a fully automated way, update the certificate for that host. It's now a Microsoft certificate, and you can see that the date has been changed to the 14th. In addition to be able to view and manage certificates, you'll see I have this activate auto renewal, and I can click on that, and what it will do is it will basically do an auto renewal certificate using that configured certificate authority. Note here, it does say that once you change it, it will take a time for the UI to update. So I'll change it here, and after a few minutes, it would see the renewal status go to activated. All right, so we talked about the VCF SSO, or the Identity Access Management certificates and passwords. The last piece I want to talk about is the life cycle. So if we come in here into the life cycle, so this is where we do patching and upgrading of the VCF stack. And so we do patching and upgrading both for the VCF operations, VCF automation, and those management components, as well as the vSphere, the ESXi, the NSX, and those components here. And so here, if we come down here and we look at the VCF instance, and we can go in and we can see the way we get updates in is via a depot. And so we have a choice of online depot or offline depot. So if you're a connected site, online depot, you can just pull those directly down. If you're disconnected, you can use the offline depot, which is where you basically go in and set up a local web server that you host the binaries. And so once your depot is set up, you go under binary management, and here you'll see we have upgrade binaries, patch binaries, install binaries. If I go to patch binaries, you'll see right now I have a single patch available. This is because I'm running 9.0, I don't have any live patches, so this is kind of a spoof patch, but you'll see here I have a 9.0.0.0100 patch. And so let's go ahead and let's apply this update to our cluster using the lifecycle management capabilities of VCF operations. So to do this, I first need to create a new image because we are using VLCM images. Right now, my image is using 9.0. I don't have an image for this for this new version. So first thing I can do is go in and create one. So here I can go out and I can see I don't have one available, so I can jump over to vSphere, where here's that SSO where I'm using single sign-on. So VCF SSO is configured. So you'll see here I don't have to provide a username and password. I just click login and it automatically takes me in. And here I can go in and I can create an image. And you'll see here, this image that I'm creating happens to be live patch compatible, which means I'm able to apply this update without having to go in and put host into maintenance mode, evacuate VMs, or do any reboots. So once I have that image and it's associated with my workload domain cluster, I can go in, do a refresh here back to the VCF operations. And you can see that patch is available. I can select it and I can bring that in. Okay, so now with that patch available, I go out to my workload domain. So here I am on workload domain 1. And I'm going to go ahead and plan my patching where I can go in and select my ESX host, select my version, and I will go ahead and validate the selection and then confirm. And you'll see here that it's confirmed, everything's ready to go. So now I'm ready to go in and schedule the update, or configure it, I guess. There's two parts to configuring it. So I configure the update, and then after I'm do a pre-check, then after I'm done, I can go ahead and remediate the cluster. So I'll go ahead, it's got my cluster, it's got 4 hosts, and I can go ahead and assign the image. And because this is a live patch, I'm going to enforce the live patch. And we'll go ahead now and run the pre-check. And the pre-check comes back successful. So now I'm ready to go in and schedule it. So I'll go in here and I'll just go into the scheduler and I'm going to run this now. I can schedule for a future for a maintenance window, or I can go ahead and do it now. I'm just going to go ahead and do it now. And then we can monitor the status, and we can monitor the status both inside VCF operations, and then we can also go out to the vSphere client where we can see it's actually updating the host. You'll see it's putting in the partial maintenance mode, which shows that live patch is being applied, and it'll basically go through all 4 hosts. And because we don't have to evacuate VMs or reboot, this takes place fairly quickly. And that pretty much is a quick overview of fleet management. So you see in here, we have the new fleet management section. We talked about identity and access certificates, passwords, and lifecycle. We also have configuration drifts and tags in there that include part of fleet management. We're not showing those right now, but those are 2 additional features. And so with that, I think I'm ready to hand it off to Kelcey, who will then take us to the next part.
Right. Go ahead and share my screen here. And all right. And so with that, so thanks, Carl. One of the things that I really want to expand on and what Kyle just demonstrated, for the smarter way that VCF handle, fleet management tasks, right? As a matter of fact, as you start to leverage VCF to operate your private cloud, you're going to see workflows for fleet, for operations, and for security management. They're going to be unified by an even smarter end-to-end experience. And so, yep, what I'm talking about is the user interface. So let's go ahead and just look at that in a little bit more detail here. And so, right out of the gate, right, you're going to see a more streamlined user interface that really improves your productivity by consolidating, key operation and management capabilities and making them easier to find. And so, for example, VCF now has stack management capabilities for infrastructure, for workload, and for fleet management tasks that can be accessed via a very, very intuitive navigation pane. We're going to be looking at that. And if for some reason, right, you can't find what you're looking for, there's a search feature at the top of the console that's going to come in really, really handy, while you learn how to navigate this refresh console UI, right? And so if you're looking for a feature and you don't know where to find it, all you got to do is just search for it, and VCF is going to actually take you to the feature and actually show you where it exists within the navigation pane. And of course, there's the ability to provide feedback. I see feedback already happening here in the chat. Well, good news is you're going to be able to do this directly within the product. And so there's even an option to attach screenshots with feedback to add even more context. And so with that being said, let's just take a look at the smarter experience that VCF offers to make you more productive right out of the gate. And so VCF's console experience for operations, it makes features more discoverable, and it also makes it easier to integrate key VCF components so that you can be more productive. And so, for example, the navigation pane has been grouped. You can see infrastructure, you can see workload operations, fleet management capabilities, capacity management. You can see security capabilities, and of course, license management, as well as administrative and content development. workflows. And it's all in a very intuitive hierarchy that can actually be minimized to even save screen space. And if you're looking for more detail about its capabilities, oh, my video just, let's do this. Here we go. Awesome. All right. And so with that being said, uh, so if you're looking for more details, you can actually go to our Launchpad here, and you can actually get a summary of each feature, as well as learn about key outcomes and prerequisites, right? And of course, like I said, VCF features are searchable. So all you got to do is just go to that search bar and just type in what you're looking for. And VCF will not only take you to the feature page, but it will also show you again where it exists within the user interface. And when it comes to integrating key components, that could be done directly within the console as well. So for example, VCF identifies workload and management domains, and you can activate components for log collection as well as network and flow collection without even having to leave the console user interface. And so there's a lot of great functionality here. And like I said before, if you want to leave feedback, you can do that as well. You just simply go in and let us know what you love, what you dislike about it, and areas of improvement as well. So all that can be done here within this user improved console user interface here. And with that, let's just talk about, operations management, starting with some of the capabilities around health and diagnostics. And so Sehjung mentioned Skyline and its feature parity within VCF. So let's just talk about that a little bit more in detail, right? And so as you all know, maintaining a stable, a secure, a resilient environment, it's a constant challenge for sysadmins. And, we basically just need tools to really accelerate the discovery and the prevention of costly issues before they occur, and even speed SLAs when we can't resolve the issues on our own, right? And so with VCF Health and Diagnostics, they really come together to address these challenges with the ability to diagnose known issues impacting VCF software in a centralized location. So again, it's that single pane of glass. We can view security risk based on CVEs and BMSAs. We can understand impacted components such as unresponsive hosts, as well as vSAN and NSX Health. And if a issue such as a security advisory is identified, we can actually see recommendations on how to remediate the issue ourselves. And one of my favorite components about this is that if we can't solve the issue on our own, we can actually package and send relevant log data with VCF's log assist capability, right? We can send that directly to Broadcom support and even help them speed issue discovery and even drive faster SLAs. And so let's just take a look at this demo in action. And so VCF Health and Diagnostics, again, they work together to highlight both existing and potential issues that impact the security, the stability, and the resiliency of your infrastructure if they're not addressed, right? And so for existing issues that you may need to react to, VCF Health shows the operational state of critical components such as your certificates, DNS lookup issues, unresponsive hosts, to really ensure that everything is working correctly, right? Ranging from issues to connectivity, to utilization, to the health of our services, and even capabilities such as vMotion and our snapshots. And then on the proactive side, right, VCF Diagnostics will highlight issues that you should address based on level of severity. It's going to summarize the issue. It's going to show the objects that were impacted, and it's even going to give you recommendations on how to resolve the issue yourself. But if you can't resolve the issue, you've got log assist, right? And what that basically does is it actually automates bundle creation and transmission, allowing you to focus on more meaningful tasks. You simply just go through this guided workflow, you select it, you associate it with an SR number, and then VCF will actually do the rest, allowing you to initiate the transfer, and you can even see the activity feed in terms of the history and everything that was associated with that bundle as well. And then moving on, what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to wrap up things by talking about how you can better manage costs within VCF, right? And so, if you're providing services to a tenant, you often face the challenge of balancing, the operational efficiency and the fairness when creating chargebacks for tenant billing, right? And obviously, without the proper tools in place, chargebacks can be a very manual, very time-consuming, very tedious process that not only impacts, operational efficiency, but it can also lead to disputes with your tenants, right? Who may not necessarily have the transparency that they need to truly understand their bill, right? And I'm happy to say that VCF and its chargeback capabilities alleviates these challenges by allowing you to do a couple things. Providers can divide rate cards that calculate metering rates for compute, for storage, and for networking, as well as other agreed upon costs for any org or region combination. Providers can also generate bills for tenants as they are needed, right? As well as automate the creation with its scheduling capability. And then last but not least, once a bill is generated, tenants can actually see a detailed breakdown of those costs within the automation console within VCF. And so with that, enough talking, let's just go check it out in action. And so, the chargeback feature can be accessed under the cost option, under the capacity dropdown. And here you can see tenant information through a variety of different lenses. First there is the overview page, which presents a high-level summary of chargeback data, including cost and price across the various organizations, region quotas, and their running VMs. And then there's the organization view, right, which displays chargeback breakdowns for each organization and their corresponding region quotas. And then finally, there's a project level view, which actually offers a very sort of comprehensive view of cost and pricing across all of your projects within VCF automation, with additional insights with associated namespaces and deployments and the corresponding dashboards, as you can see here, and all those pricing charts. They come together to make it easier to track and analyze, those resource usage costs at every level of your environment. And then on top of that, right, let's just talk about billing, right? The billing capability allows you to generate and schedule bills seamlessly for your tenants. It actually transforms the often complex billing process into a streamlined, automated, and error-free operation that's really ensuring consistency and accuracy in every transaction. And there's two ways to do it. First, there is the on-demand where the bill is actually generated manually, and it's a very guided process where you enter your start and end dates. Then you simply select your billing objects, which can either be an organization or region quota. And then with a simple quick, voila, your bills are there for everyone to see, and it's very accurate. And then for a more automated approach, you can actually schedule bill creation as well. And so this action provides, again, just more efficiency by leveraging Automation Central, where you can set automated bill creation. You just simply fill in your base details, you select those billing objects, and then you can set a recurring schedule for that bill creation. And with that, I am going to turn it over to my partner in crime, Abhijit. Sir, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Kelcey. So let me share my screen. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can
Okay,
see it.
thank you. Yep. So on to storage operations. So vSAN is one of the core components of your VCF deployment, as it is the preferred and cost-efficient storage stack. So having insights into its performance is crucial. So we get a new storage operations homepage as part of VCF Operations 9. And again, it provides visibility into active storage specific alerts, all your critical and warning alerts. We can see overall capacity usage of all your vSAN clusters, as well as other data stores that are deployed in your VCF stack. We could see cluster health scores and different cluster types deployed within your VCF infrastructure, and along with some of the performance KPIs like IOPS, throughputs, latency metrics. And we can see the overall inventory of the storage clusters, including your third-party clusters as well as vSAN. Then we also added a new diagnostics option, which enables admins to run diagnostics checks on vSAN clusters facing performance issues. And you will see ops providing those insights and recommendations to improve the storage performances. And then also we get a new performance dashboard showing overview of key performance metrics like the KPIs and insights within the vSAN cluster. So I have a demo for the same. So let's quickly go through the demo. vSAN is one of the core components of VCF deployment, as it is the preferred and cost-efficient storage type. So having insights into its performance is crucial. So with VCF Operations 9, you get a new storage operations homepage to monitor and troubleshoot vSAN specific issues. So here it provides a single pane of glass view of your entire storage infrastructure. You also have visibility into all the active alerts specific to your storage in terms of, you can see the overall critical alerts, warning alerts, As you get into the detail, it will show you the active alerts with symptoms which has triggered this alert and the KB article attached for troubleshooting this alerts. You can also view capacity usage of all your vSAN data stores and other data stores which are part of your VCF stack. And as you come below, you can see the overall vSAN cluster health scores. You can see the cluster types that have been deployed. Like we have one OSA here, one ESA cluster type. You can also view the vSAN cluster performances like your IOPS, throughput, and latency. And the below table shows the overall inventory of in terms of cluster, your data stores, the vCenters, vSAN configuration, health scores, ESXi host, which form the vSAN cluster, your VMs which are part of that specific cluster, capacity usage, space utilization, IOPS latency, and encryption policies. Now there is a new diagnostics option which enables users to run diagnostics checks. So admins can now run diagnostic tests on clusters facing performance issues. Again, this is based on the HCI bench, which is a benchmark tool designed for vSAN. So you can set the diagnostics goal to define the context of the performance evaluation. So you can choose whether you want to troubleshoot a production cluster or want to benchmark and optimize the new cluster for maximum IO per second, maximum throughput, or minimize latency. So in this case, we'll select maximize IOPS and pick one of the cluster and run the diagnostics check. So the first test result means that the outstanding IO queued by the benchmark is too low for the desired goals, which means that the benchmark workload is insufficient for the desired goal. And you will see the trend for the cluster outstanding IO for the VM consumption. And you can see there is a KB article attached to every alert for mitigating these issues. Like in this case, it's asking to adjust the IO size to meet desired performance goal. The second test result related to IO request size. So the graph below shows the average IO size of write operations, the write IOPS, and throughput. So the recommendation here is to choose a small IO size, ideally 4K. With larger IO size, the system may be bottlenecked on the IO throughput that vSAN disk groups can handle. And lastly, we have also a new vSAN performance dashboard, which provides a comprehensive overview of key performance metrics and insights for your selected vSAN cluster. So the vSAN cluster latency provides a total latency, the read-write latency, read-write IOPS, and throughput. You can analyze the latency metrics for the selected cluster to identify potential bottlenecks and ensure optimal performances. And then you have top-end analysis to gain insights into top-performing or underperforming resources, including your VMs, your host, storage pools, and disk groups. And then we have the vSAN Metrics Explorer. So you can use the metric picker to pick a metrics and the metrics chart to deep dive into all vSAN metrics, enabling detailed analysis and customized monitoring. So here you can see how our storage monitoring has been simplified with the new VCF operations line capabilities. All right, so moving next on to business applications. So the integrations got better between the operations for networks and VCF operations line. So we can now add business applications in VCF operations using the flow-based application discovery, as well as the old manual way of defining those applications by defining those tiers and those entities. So once these applications are saved, you can use the new business application dashboard, which comes as part of the VOA toolset. The VOA stands for VCF Optimization Assessment Toolset. So we get a new application dashboard, new views, and new reports with richer contents and charts. This new business application dashboard will help monitor health and availability of all the critical applications, basically all your tier 1 applications, which are critical to the business. So we expect them to remain healthy with great SLAs. So from the business application perspective, you get down to the tier, and from the tiers, you can get down to the VM. And then from the VM, you can get down to the application topology to see the logical view and infrastructure dependent views. So you also get into individual tier like the database tier, so you can see those DB related KPIs which are coming through management pack or by installing the Telegraph agents. And similarly, you could also see the web tier, which is running maybe a Kubernetes-based web application with Kubernetes constructs like pod and containers, and those metrics for richer metrics. And then as I said, like we also have enhanced the reports now in VCF Operations 9. So the new reports look visually much better than the older ones, and they include all charts. Also, the new inventory reports has been updated and are much richer on content and are on par with whatever we see or whatever we get with the RB tools. And you can now download them as PDF or CSV files. And with that, let me quickly go over the integrations got better with Operations for Networks and VCF Operations 9. We see a new option to add applications using the network flows, which uses flow-based application discovery. The based on flows option will open up the flow-based application discovery workflow as a native feature without redirecting to Operations for Networks. This enables the ability to discover and monitor your business applications based on machine learning and network flows. So you can automatically discover mesh applications and its tiers to curate and helps in keeping applications up to date with any topological changes within the application. So here you can see we have 14 applications discovered. So this is your application name. You can see the tiers and you can see the VMs which are part of the tier. You can also define the discovery scope by editing the discovery options. So here you can define the scope, whether you want to look at all flows or any specific entities like a specific cluster or data center. Here you can define the duration, like whether you want to look at last 30 days of the network flows. Under discovery options, in case you already have a pre-existing application definitions or CMDB solution, you can take a dump of it and export the application portfolio definitions and upload it in a CSV format. So this will help in mapping for enrichments, and this will also improve the accuracy of your discovered applications. So there are additional conditions that you can set, the order and naming preferences for your applications and tier namings. So you can refer us to a CSV, or you can refer to VM names or load balancers or VM tags, security groups, and security tags. So you can define this order while setting up the application and tier names. So once you submit, the discovery process kicks in and it will show the newly discovered applications. Now, while saving the application, you can modify the application name, like you can give a different name here. You can modify the tier names, or you can modify the members. You can add additional conditions. You can add a separate tier. You can set additional conditions before saving the application. Now, once the application is saved, you can see the overall application details here. You can see the overall topology of the application. You can get into details and look at additional metrics for the application. You can also launch in context into Operations for Networks for additional metrics or microsegmentation planning or triggering the guided network troubleshooting framework. So this is how you can add new applications based on machine learning and network flows within your operations console. The manual addition of business applications continues to coexist with the existing workflow within VCF operations. As part of the VMware Optimization Assessment toolset, you see a new business application dashboard along with the newly updated views and reports. Now, since they are all critical to business like tier 1 applications, we expect that they remain healthy with greater SLAs. So if you take the average of all applications, you can expect this to be steady over time and it reflects the business and you don't want to see those big jumps. So here we see like there are 3-tier applications, and so from business application, we get down to the tier. From the web tier, we get down to the individual VM level metrics. Same thing for the DB tier, you can get down to the individual VMs to see the overall metric. So there have been updates to the reports and views in VOA. So if you go to dashboards and reports, so under reports, if you search by VOA, so these are the new report templates which are available now. So the PDF and CSV are different reports. So we have few generated reports here. So let's look at the inventory report here. So what you will see is like they look visually much better now. So they include all charts. Similarly, we have one more report for performance as well. As you can see, like they include all charts now rather than the tables. Similarly, the views also have got upgraded. This is one of the report for getting the inventory for virtual machines. You can see like they are much richer on content, and you can see that there are more inventory content covered than the previous releases. All right, so I think this is the last demo I wanted to cover. So yeah, this is a quick overview of all the new VCF operations capabilities as part of the VCF 9 release. Kelcey, Dave, you want to add anything?
I think the only thing that I would ask here is that if you haven't already done so, just sign up for Explore. All you got to do here is just scan the QR code um, to get access to our full catalog of sessions, labs, and activities. And then, full conference pass holders, they can take advantage of the BCF certification exam for free, either during or after the event. And then, last but not least, number 3, all the attendees have access to, I believe it's 20 plus hands-on labs. There's going to be over 55 plus expert-led sessions, covering real-world insights and best practices and all those deep dives that we all come to know and love about Explore. And so, again, if you haven't already done so, this is our call to action. Go ahead and make sure that you're there, and we'll see you there if you are. And look at that. We got a couple of minutes to spare.